So Roy, I want to talk again about some of the challenges that you face as a returning citizen. But before I go there, what I want to say to you earlier, we were talking about your story and the challenges you met as an inmate and how your life was changed as a result of that. And there was at one point where it was very emotional for you. And I just want to say I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Because I think that is something that the people need to see more. We need to put a human face on challenges, on mistakes that people make,
Yes.
on the decisions that have caused you to go in that direction. People need to see the human side. People need to see the heart in you, and I know you, and I see that, and I think it's wonderful. So thank you. Thank you for just being transparent.
Thank you. You're welcome. After I'd say about 10 to 12 years now since my last incarceration, which was in 2008. There are moments that catch me off guard that I still have, that still need to be dealt with. Some unresolved issues or just some things that are still painful. And what I didn't expect was for that to happen. But I still feel, I still am sensitive. I was taught, like many young men, that boys aren't supposed to cry and these things, and so that was one of the biggest lies that I was ever told. I do feel, and I am sensitive, and I'm proud to be that, and I don't see that at all as a sign of weakness. In fact, it's the opposite.
I totally agree with you on that. But so let me ask you that when you talk about some of the challenges that you had as, we say, returning citizen,
Yeah.
We don't say formerly incarcerated, we don't say convicted felon, because that's just has such a negative connotation to it, right? But when you talk about some of the challenges you have, let's talk about some of the emotions that you had to experience as you were returning back to this community. How did that affect you emotionally? Did you go to counseling? Do you think you should have gone to counseling? Did you have a mentor? Should you have had one? What do you think? What are some of those challenges when you talk about just emotional? And I know there are others. There's like housing, employment, but I really want to focus on the emotional stability of a returning citizen. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, it certainly is a very difficult process for anybody. It actually starts even before we come home. And so what most people don't realize is like that last 30 days is a very difficult and peculiar experience. I believe right at this very minute, there are many people who have made up in their mind and their heart of hearts that they're going to change. They're going to do things different.
Yeah.
However, when we start seeking support or start to kind of imagine what that experience is going to be like once we leave, there becomes a very sad circumstances. We hear a lot of things, but I didn't, myself personally, I didn't get to see people who had been where I was and became successful.
Wow.
And so probably the way I envisioned myself was I wanted to be clean, I wanted to be sober. And I thought maybe if I got a job, maybe cutting grass or just a job where I could pay my bills, then that would be enough. But what I discovered was that I still needed to fulfill my destiny. I still needed to pursue my purpose.
So okay, here, let's go there. How do you know what your purpose was? Okay, you're incarcerated. So what you're telling me that is you're incarcerated, but you still know or believe there's a purpose for your life.
Absolutely. For a long time while I was using drugs, I had kind of gave up that I would ever have an opportunity or a life that's successful. I didn't believe, because I knew that the addiction, the history of me always losing jobs and being arrested, having the background that I had always made things very challenging and difficult. This time, I actually decided that one of the things that I needed to do was to go back to school and get an education. My last incarceration, I still had a high school diploma. In 2008, in 2009, I set out on a journey just to get a certificate as a paraprofessional counselor, which is a 7-month certificate. And obviously it turned into an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and then a master's degree. But what most people don't know is that at the very beginning, when I signed up and registered at Germanna, I had a funding by an organization. I had received funding by an organization here in town who, 1 week before classes start, withdrew the funding.
Oh my.
So I got a phone call while I was away at Virginia Beach by Germanna Community College, letting me know that my classes had been canceled and that the funding had been withdrawn.
Wow.
This was the very first juncture where I faced the crossroad of either giving up or being determined to find a solution. I had by then removed 2 words out of my vocabulary: problem and disability.
Okay.
I used the word different abilities and I used the word challenges.
Okay.
When we buy into labels or certain types of messages from society, those actually breed, make us feel inadequate.
You're absolutely right. I love that.
Thank you.
That. So having said that, I guess I would count that as maybe as a challenge.
Yes.
You know, because it's negative. But 2 questions. One, as you re-enter the community, do you think counseling is a very crucial point in your success? Or should you have gone to counseling, or you went to counseling and that helped you?
I did go. In
Okay.
fact, not only was I pursuing education to become a counselor, but I also knew that I needed counseling, and I still continue to hold myself accountable for things that need to be dealt with, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and sometimes physically as well. So I definitely recommend that. For me, I actually submerged myself 7 days a week into some type of support system
Good.
that would help me believe that it would ensure my success.
Okay.
And here's the reason why. Addiction, for example, takes no days off. And so
Sure.
why would I believe that I could basically spend 1 or 2 days a week getting help and be okay in the other 5 remaining days when I had all the evidence in my life that that was not going to work?
Wow, that's interesting. The addiction takes no time off.
Never does.
Wow. So I want to talk a little bit more about education, you know, and when I hear you say you did some counseling,
Yes.
your goal was to become a counselor. So I want to, and so I want to talk a little bit more about when you got that no from Germanna,
Yeah.
and then what you did from there. So let's kind of talk a little bit about that quickly.
Sure.
And then what I wanted to do is talk about how you met us, how you met FAILSAFE-ERA. And so let's kind of go there for a minute.
Okay. So that
Before you-
that day when I got that phone call, I was devastated. I was crushed. I can still feel the pain of that phone call. But what I had decided was I refused to be defeated, and giving up wasn't an option. And I had
Like
also made it a point that I didn't have a plan B. And so I only had a plan A, and that plan A actually was just to get that certificate. So I found solutions, and I had a person who was in my life then, who is still in my life, who happens to be my wife.
Awesome.
And I owe a great deal of credit to her. And so she doesn't always know how proud and how thankful I am that I've had her in my life. And I know for a fact that she was a source of strength.
Let me ask you a question about her.
Sure.